Hello and welcome to the Brianna and Craig and Brianna. We weren't sure. We've been fighting over whose name comes first. It's a whole thing. Uh, I'm Craig Power. This is Brianna Watson, new real estate agent.
Newbie over here.
Very big deal. This is the big announcement show.
Working with Craig now.
Yeah. Lucky you. Any real estate anybody who just heard you say that is like, that fucking, you seem like you're pretty put together. Like you went with that fucking guy. So, no, I'm very excited. We have a lot of, we're looking to do this weekly podcast, right? We've done some podcasting before, and I'm very excited to kick things off. So let's sum it up for now. No name. But we do know, we have a general theme with real estate, personal finance, family life. We got a little bit of everything. Do you want to kind of summarize your thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So obviously I just started working for you because you were the guy. And
not for me. Definitely not
pretty
for
much
me,
for you.
For the record. No.
For me, with you.
That's not how it works.
But yeah, so you had mentioned we had done that podcast together a while ago. I was on yours, you were on mine. And I think a lot of the things we believe in and talk about and our morals and values align. And so me joining your brokerage just really made sense. And then we talked about this podcast, starting this, so people could really get to know us as people, because a lot of realtors don't do that. And we want to let people in so they understand who we are, why we're doing this. We're showing people what it's like to be vulnerable.
No, I'm so excited to be doing this with you, and I can't think of anybody who is just more suited to the gig. I know really, thinking if I was going through any sort of financial, personal, anything, you're definitely somebody I would trust inherently. So the fact that you're getting into the field, I'm really excited about it. I'm just excited to be a part of it. Just a disclaimer here, this is the only room in the house without AC. So ice water, if you see me sweating through my shirt, just switch to the audio version.
Yeah, I'm in my basement with flies everywhere.
See, this is the
No
life.
name podcast. The setup isn't how we want it. This is the life. Yeah. But we decided to just do it
People
for you guys. So
looking at me, it looks like my shirt from here looks like some sort of Tommy Bahama thing. Like that's
it's like an advertisement.
Yeah. So who's the guy with the palm trees? But no, and I guess we could lay out we're covering already what we're trying to talk about on the podcast, but we'll come in each week, 2 to 3 topics, right? Coming in hot, and I think probably the first one to lead off is just sort of, we're putting this stuff up on YouTube. We're looking to do a podcast every week and just sort of share not only our experience in the real estate business, what we're seeing, market knowledge, but also sort of the, other side of it, right? The more personal elements and everything. You have this YouTube channel. You've always been this like social media mastermind. You've delved into a couple different things.
I've tried.
I was hoping to sort of hear a little bit more about your experience up until now.
Yeah, so that actually will probably lead me into the topic I wanted to talk about. But I started making YouTube videos a long time ago, putting myself out there on social media, and it was really a test for myself mentally and emotionally to put myself out there and see what that felt like.
Yeah.
And to just grow as a person. So I had started making videos a while ago. It was really about our debt-free journey at the time. And it just kind of transformed into other facets of my life where I would share certain information. And from that, I grew to learn the power of being vulnerable. So it's obviously hard. It's really hard putting yourself out there, like even we are doing right now. But every time someone does that, and every time I do it myself, I'm inspired even more to just keep being that open, vulnerable person, to keep sharing my stories, to keep hearing other people's stories. It's something I'm really, really passionate about. So that's why I'm really excited to be doing this with you, because if I can do this every week, that fuels me. That's what I live for, is just putting things out there and not being embarrassed, not caring what anybody thinks, being who I am, and then letting people come in who align with what we believe and what we say and all that.
Yeah, I was really excited to hear that you wanted to get into real estate because I think the way you're able to put yourself out there, speaking specifically about you, is you are able to build trust in a way, through video that not a lot of people are able to do. And just getting back to the sentiment, I so agree with the sentiment, right? And I am fully aware when you cross into this world of content creation or putting your personal life out there, some people, we talked about this, are reflexively going to cringe when you let them in. And that's okay. And the first thing, I think I'd like to say is, especially because this is a podcast product, I don't think we're pretending to be experts in any area. I would say I'm not intending to portray myself as an expert in any area other than real estate.
Yeah.
Right. I'm interested in personal finance. I'm interested in business, sure. And we're going to get into that. There's a million topics we could eventually work our way into. I do want to plant that flag to say these are opinions. We're having fun. I think we're trying to be more open about our struggles rather than any preaching. Right. That's one thought, one disclaimer I'd like to start with. Does that make sense? And then
don't take anything we say seriously.
you know what I mean? Like, even there's even that element of we're talking so much financial stuff, but we have to say this is not financial advice at times, know? And beyond that, and this is where I think I was afraid of sounding preachy, I would just say from experience to what you're talking about, I think there is great power in accountability. Yeah. Right. Like, I think owning it and just putting it out there and putting yourself on video or on the radio or even just on Instagram, on Facebook, is inherently empowering. I've seen that with you. I remember when you were starting to do some of the personal finance videos, I was like, oh, Brianna's like a Dave Ramsey person. That's me. That's me. That's I might not be sharing that out there, but that's actually pretty cool. Right. So I'm one of the ones watching the videos and being like, hell yeah.
Yeah, and that's that's what I've learned too, being vulnerable and putting things out there, is people then come to you and you wouldn't expect them to. So just as an example, this was one thing I wanted to talk about in this podcast, was like the power of vulnerability and what happens. Like, the risk is always worth the reward in the end. Yeah. Because I could be private about my entire life and not share anything, not be open, but I wouldn't learn from anyone on the outside who would then come to me and say, like, hey, I just went through the same thing. Here's what we did. Yeah. So just as an example, which and I think other people know because I was public about it recently, was my son has had recent health complications and it was scary and we had no idea what was going on. And one day I kind of said a prayer and then it was like a light bulb in my head and it said, be open. Post this, like, share this information. So I made a very vulnerable post on Facebook sharing what we were going through, what he was going through, how I felt, what we were dealing with the healthcare system, because that is bad. And from me being vulnerable, being open, I had people reach out to me through phone calls, text messages, direct messages on Facebook. And it was people being supportive, sending us prayers and love. But on top of that, it was people sharing their experiences with me and giving me the tools and the resources that I needed to advocate for him. It was people in the healthcare system, like nurses texting me, sending me messages like, this is what you need to say to the doctor. This is how hard you should push in the emergency room. And I walked away from that experience being like, holy crap, if I didn't do that, if I didn't make that choice that day to open myself up to these people on Facebook, half of them who I don't talk to, and share what was going on, I wouldn't have received any of that in return, especially all the people who were praying for us. So through that experience, I did what I needed to do based on people's advice to me. And now he's like 80% better than he was. And it's because of all that advice. It's because of everything I received in return from being vulnerable and putting myself out there. So that was just another situation in my life that proved to me the power of this, of what you and I are doing here, of anybody sharing their story. There's so much power behind that. And it's always going, there's always going to be a reward. Even if you're like embarrassed while you're sharing a story, or you feel uncomfortable, or you say something or share something and then you feel weird after, it's always touching someone and you don't even know it. Like you said, like I posted about Dave Ramsey and you're like, oh, hey, I love Dave Ramsey. And then you and I made that connection. Yeah. So anytime you post something or you're vulnerable, you're going to make a connection with somebody. You're going to change somebody's life, whether you know it or not. And that's really just something that I like live for now. And I never used to be that person. So that's why I'm also glad we're doing this together too, because it gives us a chance every week to be these vulnerable people and let people in and hopefully inspire people to start to do the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is the best news, that he's feeling better. And I know you got a book from me at one point.
And that was so helpful too. I'm like, I called all these people. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. And people were like, I'm so sorry. Like you said, I'm so sorry. I hope you don't take this as like unsolicited advice. And I'm like, no, that's why I posted, because I want all the advice. I want all the support. And that's what I got. So I appreciated every single person who reached out and gave me their 2 cents, because it was information I didn't have before that.
Yeah, no, it's great when you put something out there like that and you get it back. That's when, you're emboldened to kind of keep going in that direction, And no, it is funny. I was thinking of this as you were talking, like, and now in the real estate world, and you're fresh into this world. It's funny because there is this element of airbrushing everything and glamorizing everything, and that's also like part of the job. It's part of the world. But I think that's like what I think we could do here. That's like, we could do more of an honest, fun, but still like actionable version of like real estate related content and stuff. And I think we really empathize. I'm conscientious about like anything I put up is sort of like millennial Gen Z struggle oriented. That's sort of my corner. That's but yeah, the benefits of just owning it. Yeah, could not agree more. I'll give you all the credit in the world for it. Just another reason, when you mentioned any interest in real estate, I was like, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, and my husband has been begging me for years. He's like, please just go get your license. Yeah. And I did, and it was hard. And that's another thing I was super vulnerable about, because during this whole time that my son was sick, I was studying at night for like 1 to 2 hours a night, while being like so stressed out and nervous about him. I couldn't even think straight when I was studying. So, and I tell this to people openly. I'm not embarrassed. It sucked, but it took me 6 tries to pass the damn real estate test.
You had a lot going on.
I had a lot going on.
It was more like you didn't need to take the test when you were.
Exactly. My husband was like, this is the worst timing.
I think it sounded to me like you were signing up and like life was getting in the way.
Right.
And you were like, well, I'm supposed to take this test still.
Exactly. Yeah. But I'm in this group so I took the test through Freedom Trail Realty School or whatever. And I'm in their Facebook group, and I'm very open with my experience. And there are people on there who are so discouraged. They're like, I'm never going to pass. I'm like, hey, it took me 6 tries. And I'm not afraid to admit that. And a lot of people in the group, they're like, oh my gosh, it took me 8 or whatever. So again, just the power of being vulnerable and being open helps other people, and it helps you at the same time.
Absolutely. And, one topic that I was excited to get into, if you don't mind, I feel like we're shifting more into real estate world, if that's okay. Yeah. So anytime there's like a big real estate story, I mean, half the reason we're doing this stuff is to comment on like the real estate story of the day. So how can I get into the Airbnb thing, right? So this is like I was hoping to get into it, and this is 2 weeks behind the news cycle, the Airbnb thing, or the proposed Airbnb housing crash. The idea all started with Nick Gurley. Nick Gurley's a real estate commentator. He comes from a commercial lending background. I looked him up. Looks to be like a data junkie type influencer, probably a really smart guy. Had a Twitter thread that made waves about, by the way, as our production quality improves, I'm going to be able to bring this stuff up.
Yeah, and show them.
Brianna will be able to tell you I had a little bit of a technical meltdown before this program. So no elements to show you right now, but he had this Twitter thread, right? A lot of waves made about an Airbnb crash. He pulled this data to show, and I haven't been on Twitter in a long time to add to that. Not an Elon thing. I quit Twitter in 2017 because it was making me miserable.
Yeah.
Bear with me. But he was saying basically, and I'm trying to bring it up in another box, but he was saying the Airbnb collapse is real. Revenues are down nearly 50% in cities like Phoenix and Austin. Watch out for a wave of forced selling from Airbnb owners. And probably my biggest disagreement there is when he makes the case that property values are going to drop, that a wave is coming. It sounds like, to me, he's talking nationally, and I really disagree. Obviously, just from what I see every day in our market, it's really hard to envision. I didn't think his take was very nuanced, and no doubt the numbers are real. Airbnbs are getting smoked out there in certain parts of the country, but I was thinking about this. These are investor owners. Most of them are working from a pretty advantageous financial position. I'm sure there are some that are over leveraged, but chances are they aren't your panic sellers. And thinking about, put yourself in the shoes of the average Airbnb operator here. The average Airbnb operator bought the property or refinanced it 2021 or earlier. So they have a lower interest rate. If it's an investment property, they probably have 25% equity or more. They're probably bullish on real estate as an investment over the long term in general and not eager to sell. So they've seen their investments value increase 20 to 30% over the last 3 years alone.
Yeah.
So like that, this is the average profile of the Airbnb operator today. Does not sound like a panic seller to me.
Right.
And when we talk about a wave of selling, that's always what it is. It's a wave. The wave's coming. There's guys on YouTube that have been talking about the same wave for 9 years. And, and in the instance of like foreclosures, panic selling, this just doesn't seem like the scenario to me. There's something brewing with people who are over leveraged. It's sort of like today's buyer, meaning like the last 12 months, because with rates now, almost everybody is buying at the tip of what they can afford. Most people are just swallowing these rates and saying, I got to get in. And by the way, I agree with them. I do think they got to get in. But Airbnb owners, like, they can pivot. They can try to find long-term tenants. They can rent to, if I had an Airbnb around here and it got unusually quiet and my monthly payment wasn't murder, I think I'd quickly pivot to a long-term tenant or even rent to family or an acquaintance at a small loss just to not sell. That would be my mindset.
Yeah. So was he saying that the Airbnb market is so saturated now that some of the owners aren't getting as many short-term rentals as they had anticipated?
Yeah.
So they're going to start to sell their properties and
right. And he highlighted a bunch of real estate markets for the specific Airbnb losses. Boston was definitely not one of them. I don't think anyways. Phoenix and Austin were at the top of the list. They make sense because it's almost like a post-COVID market correction.
Yeah.
And I think like, I just wish he wasn't so heavy-handed with it. Again, clearly a smart dude. I think there could be like individual market corrections from this Airbnb trend that affect pricing there. Sure, not ruling it out. But this story, like I guarantee in our market, like suburbs of a major metro in the Northeast, like we won't fill it for a second. And I know, I'd be curious your thoughts, really.
Yeah, I guess I when I put myself in the shoes of someone who owns an Airbnb, I would probably hold on to it for as long as I could. And I know there's a lot of back and forth with that because it's putting people out of housing, so they say, because a lot of people are buying up these short-term rentals, renting them out for the Airbnb. So It's a tough place to be in, but like you said, they're just random people. Most of these people are random people. They're not like investment firms. Some of them are buying up Airbnbs, these investment firms, but a lot of the time it's just like a husband and a wife, and they're like, hey, let's buy this property and rent it out in the summer or whatever. So in that scenario, I don't see many people being like, oh my gosh, we need to sell now. But I had read an article earlier, and it was saying how some places are going to start cracking down, like New York City, I think, is now, or they're going to try to require. So if I buy a property and I decide to list it on Airbnb, short-term rental, they're going to try to require me to prove to them that I'm living in that place as well. So that will be interesting, because I'm like, how are you going to get people to prove that? I can prove to you that I own it, but what do I need to show you to prove that I live there?
Yeah, so receive some mail there or something. Like, how does that? Yeah,
right. Yeah, so it's interesting. We'll see what happens. But it was saying that like 60% of short-term rentals are Airbnb.
Yeah.
And it's the numbers are pretty crazy.
I've done like a real 180, and this is a developing take, as they say. Like, I've done a real 180 on Airbnb. Like when it was coming up and the city was talking about coming down on Airbnb short-term rental ownership, and like it seemed like it was something fueled by the hotel industry. They were talking about the hotel lobby, and my take at the time, going back 5 years, was like, hold on, this is America. You're allowed to like buy property and rent it out if you want. You can do whatever you want with it, all that. Like, today, the way the market is, I've kind of like come around on, single family home ownership in these like desirable markets. It's so hard for people to get in. And the idea that, a bunch of single families are just gobbled up by, institutional investors, like, to use as Airbnbs or whatever, like that's the problem. So I've sort of come around on like, some properties sure should, be fit for short-term rentals, but I don't know. I think I'm sort of coming. I've swung all the way back around where I'm like, my priority is, and this won't be the last time I say it on the podcast, like single-family home ownership for like families, for regular people. For middle-class people. That's what we need to protect. That's totally at risk today.
So you're anti-Airbnb now?
I think so.
Would you rent an Airbnb if you went on vacation? Or are you like, no, I'm not going to support
look at them
people.
all the time. Yeah, like it's, it's totally. And
it's a tough thing. It's like,
I mean, people do seasonal rentals down here in Humrock all the time.
Right.
Like, more power. It's so not, I get it. I get it. It's definitely not like it's definitely not the like local Airbnb owner that I'm upset with. It's just it's more the currents of like middle class, your average middle class working person can't buy a home.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they just can't. And it's just Marshfield. It's not like this isn't, Beverly Hills. Yeah.
And like when we talked about this yesterday, I was looking into a bunch of random investment opportunities last year, and it's this, I don't know if it's a new thing, but it's newly discussed on social media where people are renting out properties. Like if I want to go rent a place, I'm going to go rent it from a landlord. But then me as the renter, I'm going to decide to rent that out as an Airbnb.
Oh, yeah.
With the landlord's permission.
Right.
So that's even happening. And
we dealt with like a little bit of that in property management in the city years ago. Where it was like some guy would, he would go away for the weekend and he'd rent out his condo, Airbnb style, that he was renting from another landlord without the landlord's permission.
I'm sure some people don't even ask.
Just to cash in. Really, really odd. And you'd be surprised at the condition of these places too. Not great.
Oh, yeah. I watched a few videos, and it's this kid obviously talking about how he's like, I make millions with this process and blah, blah, blah. And he showed a few of his places, and they were tiny little places, and he was jacking the prices up. Yeah. So it's just crazy. It gets crazier and crazier. And I like that concept of being able to buy an investment property and renting
Mhm.
it out and all that. But like you said, if it's putting people out of housing and it's making it so you can't even help someone find a place to buy,
Yeah.
it's like, well, then what's going to happen? Because it's only going to get worse as investment firms and investors keep buying up all these properties.
Yeah. We have more and more people like entering homeowner age, and nothing new is being built.
Yeah.
A lot of what is existing is being gobbled up by institutional investors or even just regular investors. And the like average middle class person, like, you know, not to get into like a whole everybody talks inflation or whatever, you know, inflation's gone way up, wages have gone up, but you know, below inflation, so they've effectively gone down. Like it's just, and there's no end in sight because we've had a year of rates going up, and even after all of them like raising rates and everything, the market's firing around here.
Yeah.
It's totally firing. It's competitive. We put a listing up today in Bridgewater. It's the phone's ringing off the hook. I got 8 people to get back to here in like 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nuts. So, and didn't we have we had a real estate question. Actually, before we get into our real estate question of the week, I have to read our obligatory live read. It's blank. Power Realty Advisors. My name is Craig Power, broker and owner, Power Realty Advisor, serving Greater Boston, the South Shore. This is Brianna Watson, newly licensed real estate agent, serving all your real estate needs. So I just wanted to get that live read in really quick for anybody who's made it this far in the podcast. And what we did have one thing we wanted to cover, real estate related, right? Just to wrap up with a real estate question. It was going to be, sorry, let me bring this up. Oh, it was just, you know, the very first step of what you do when you're getting ready to buy a home. Did you want to chime in on this? Do you want me to take the lead?
You can take the lead. I think I like this topic because my husband and I have bought and sold a few times. We flipped and when you first start the process, when you first start looking at houses, you don't really know where to start. You just look online and you're like, I think I know I'm doing the right thing, but I'm not exactly sure. So I really like this topic for beginners.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was really, you know, my answer to this, as far as like the very first step goes, is I would just call it like a financial positioning. You know, and that is really everything you and I talk about when we talk about debt and personal finance and all this stuff. And it's literally, you know, taking a look at the income outgo situation that you're dealing with on a monthly basis, your assets and liabilities, the debt that you have hanging over your head, and just trying to reconfigure all that. You know, get as much debt off your plate as possible.
Yeah.
Compile, you know, put some money in your pocket, buy assets, buy mutual funds, you know what I mean? Build it up to improve that cash situation. Yes. By all means, get a pre-approval at the same time because they're going to go through exactly that with you. And they're going to give you a sense of what you can afford and, you know, today's rates and the situations that may or may not be right for you. But yeah, I think the the earliest step is just taking a step back and saying, this is like our actual real financial situation.
Yeah. And to go off of that too, hindsight is 20/20. So my husband and I look back and we say, if we knew, or if we had the financial mindset that we have now, if we had that back then when we first bought our first home or sold our first home, we would be in a much better position now. And it's hard to tell that to somebody who doesn't have the experience. But for anybody listening, if you're thinking about buying, it's so important to have the money. Look at that fly. You see that? There's so many flies in this room.
Are there really? Yeah. He got right in there too.
I have to tell you a funny story about flies in the house. But
yeah.
It's so important to put yourself in that financial position to buy the place that you want or a place that's close to what you want. Because when you don't have the money to purchase, you're going to end up borrowing way more than you ever wanted to.
Yeah.
And you're going to end up in a house that you didn't really want. So you have to sit down and like be serious with yourself, with your spouse, whoever is buying this place with you, and look at your financial situation and say, like, over the next year or two, what can we do financially to pay off our debt, save our money, and put down a bigger down payment on the house that we actually want to buy. So that's huge. We can do a whole podcast on that topic.
Oh my God, I know.
But that's just, that's so important. And I think a lot of people just don't think about it, don't care about it. They're like, I'll just borrow money from the bank. But you don't want to do that. That just puts you in a worse situation. So more to come on that for sure.
No, totally agree.
Quick fly story. Before I forget, the flies in my house when I was growing up. So, you know, the Marshfield Fair comes to town every August. That's right. Growing up in my house every summer, it was full of flies. And my entire childhood, my dad would always say, oh, it's because the fair's in town. And so I'd be like, that's crazy that flies fly like all the way from like North Marshfield to my house. I believed it like my whole life, like there's flies because the fair's in town. And I said it to my husband like 5 years ago. I'm like, it's because of the fair. And he's like, what do you mean it's because of the fair? I'm like, that's what my dad said. Yeah. He's like, Brianna, there's just flies because the kids leave the doors open every day. I'm like, oh, I thought there was just the Marshfield Fair, like the cows. It's so embarrassing. I'm like, oh, all right, that makes sense.
I'm going to tell you my favorite Marshfield Fair story from when I was in like the 8th grade in the summer, walking through one of like the carnival game areas. And at the time, the carnies were pretty like they'd get in your face, be like, "Come on, come and shoot this young man, whatever." And and I remember like walking with one of my friends, being like, "The key is just like you can't make eye contact with these guys." I look up and it's this 7-foot carny. He's like, "Damn, you done fucked up now, huh?" It's like. That stuck with me. Yeah.
That's the best. I love the fair.
Yeah.
It's my favorite place.
So when I think of like carnies, that's the only carny I think of is that.
So
that
funny.
Large man.
He's like,
who
what are you
didn't think
at?
it was funny. Yeah. It was like, But
all right. So back to the 3 things. So save your money.
Oh yeah.
Get pre-approved.
Right. Yeah. No, financial position, get pre-approved, and then really take a look at the monthly. The monthly, you know really what monthly you're comfortable with. The monthly payment shapes the market today. That's really what determines pricing. A lot of it is just coming down to exactly that. It's you're
not going to know. You're not going to know what your monthly payment, what you want it to be until you do that first step. Until you look at your budget and look at your spending and say like, okay, what can we afford to spend per month on this new mortgage?
Yeah.
You can't just wing it. You can't just go and borrow money and say like, we'll figure it out. You have to know how much is coming in, how much is going out in order to say like, okay, yes, we can afford this house. Right.
If you see housing the way we see it, which is you want to get in because over the long term, it just goes up over the long term, and you're freezing an asset in time. Right, you bought it for that price at that time, however long ago. If you believe in just all the principles there, it's easy to kind of like back into, it really becomes much more about getting you in and figuring out the monthly. And we don't blow off, the upfront expenses that go with it. Things you might have to fix when you first move in. We have a fiduciary duty. As real estate agents to really protect your interest at every turn. So that's, I think, the last thing is just the payment is really what's shaping everything today. Everybody wants to get in. That's what's, shaping the pricing in today's market. I got to say, before we sign off, it's going to be great talking real estate with you. I think we got a lot of other stuff to cover too.
So much.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun, kind of popping in every week and kicking around a couple topics. So I would say we're always open to suggestions on that, covering this topic or that topic. Anything you want to add before we get going?
No, I think suggestions would be awesome. Questions, anything you want to hear from us, experiences we've had. Yeah, give us name suggestions. We need a very clever, creative name.
Yeah.
And yeah, questions about real estate, questions about life. Like, we're here to just kind of open up and show you guys who we are. So
totally.
Honestly, anything.
Love it. Love it. Well, you're the best. I'm so excited to be, officially like working with you, not just in a podcast format, but also in a day-to-day real estate format. I know you're a full-time mom. We know that. So this is I know this is part-time gig, but anybody, working with Brianna is also working with me. Anybody who's working with me, you're probably working with Brianna at some point, down the road. So, no, I'm excited to have you on board, and we'll get things rolling.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.